Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Williamson County Coaches Preview Show. I'm Jack Daniels, your host, and with me for tonight's game is the head football coach at Centennial High School, Coach Brian Rector. Welcome, Coach.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Good seeing you again.
Yeah, man. First time this year we've had you in, so kind of catch everybody up on how the Cougar season's gone up to this point.
Yeah, well, it's been a bit of feast or famine, I suppose. We're 3-2 after 5 games, and started off 0-2 with some pretty poorly played first couple of games, which I suppose, when you hindsight look back on it, is not all that surprising considering our lack of experience and youth and things of that nature. But of course, as a football coach, you never want to say that you go into your first 2 games and are just going to not play very well. But they've refocused, played pretty good the last 3 games. I've managed to put together a little bit of a win streak and hope like crazy we can continue that trend tonight.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to go back to your very first game where you went back up to Clarksville Northeast.
Right.
Were they not the team who knocked you out of the playoffs last year?
Yes, they were. A bad taste in my mouth. And Clarksville Northeast Eagles. Coach Shelby does a great job, and obviously they were the team that beat us in the playoff second round last year. So we thought it would be kind of neat to go back this year. It ended up being not so neat, not so fun, and so we kicked the ball all over the place. We dropped it. You kind of name it. One of those games for the first games. We kind of did whatever it is that you did not want to do. We had close to 30 some odd, maybe 40 missed tackles. I mean, it was really poor defensively, and we were able to run the ball, which was great, but we couldn't throw it in the ocean. Mm-hmm. We managed to actually score some points, but we just absolutely could not tackle anybody in a phone booth that night. Mm-hmm. And that really was our big demise. We haven't done awesome with that. With athletes in space. We're struggling with that big time this year and probably will continue to do that. We hope to just get a little bit better every week. But when we see a bad matchup of skill guys in space, that might be fairly tough for us. So we're going to see what we're made of tonight. We're going to see what we're made of the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm. Now, your second game, you traveled to Overton?
Overton came to us.
They came to you?
Mm-hmm, they sure did.
I know they're always got some pretty good football players.
Boy, do they ever. They're undefeated currently. It looks like they'll probably be undefeated after tonight as well. They got a good shot at going undefeated, quite frankly. We managed to handle several things that they did very well. We threw the ball a little better, didn't run the ball quite as good. What we did in that game was we struggled in the red zone, scoring points. And then defensively, they have a guy, number 8, that might be one of the fastest guys I've ever seen in high school football. Oh. Yeah, he had all 4 of their touchdowns. So they scored 28 points. He touches it about 8 times and scores 4. So he was just one of those guys that once he got out in space, it was over. And in fact, just to give you an example of how good he was that night, he ran a kickoff back after we squib it to one of their up guys. The up guy takes it and he throws it back. First time I've seen that in my career. He throws it back to number 8. Number 8 gets the ball and touchdown it was. So, like I said, we've struggled in space with athletes in space, and we've got to do a lot better job of that each week as good as we can anyway. I mean, there are physical limitations that everybody has.
Mm-hmm. And then you take and win the next 3 football games, right. And 2 of those are district football games. So you go in as 2-0 in District 11 AAA.
Yeah, that's the bright side of this. The bright side of this is that we're 2-0 in district play, wins over Brentwood and Summit. And so obviously, the district games are the ones that matter the most because you want to be either first or second to make the playoffs or get an automatic bid for a playoff selection. But as everybody knows, if you kept up with the playoff system over the last few years, the total number of wins matters a bunch. Mm-hmm. So if you can't be first or second, you need a total number of wins. We feel like the magic number, and you may do some research down the road, and that number may change, but we feel like the magic number has got to be at least 6 to get in, I would think. So that's what we're trying to do, win every district game that we possibly can and scrap out as many wins as we possibly can to get to 6 or 7 to have a chance at making the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're probably right for 6A football. Probably 6 is that magic number as for a wild card to get in. I want to still keep backing up to the Brentwood game because in the series between Brentwood and Centennial over the last 17 years, I'm pretty sure that was the first victory Centennial's ever had over Brentwood. It had to be a big night for the student body and the community of Centennial High School.
School needed it, kids needed it, just Centennial in general needed it. Finally kind of got that one done as one of those checklist of things that we've got to accomplish as a program.
Right.
Not necessarily everything in 1 year, but over a number of years to prove that there's progress and improvement. And so, that one's done. I don't mean to skirt your question, but that one was a few weeks ago, and so we've moved on, trying to anyway.
Right.
And but I understand why you asked that question, and it was big. And not only because of who it was, but the fact that they were a district opponent.
Sure.
And so that helps a ton.
Well, let's get on to your coaching staff. I know the summer's program right there, we had a little program, we talked about them, but let's kind of go back over and tell us who your assistant coaches are, what they do at your school, and what they do for your football team.
Sure. I have 4 assistants that are on the freshman JV level. Head coach is Greg Stout. He's a special education aide, does a great job, been with me since I've been at Centennial. There's Paul Dietrich, teaches math in the school. There's Bobby Majors, who came in very late as a result of an opening, and I knew him back from my days in Kentucky. He was actually, a seasoned veteran, and when I was a first-year teacher. So, he's retired from the state of Kentucky, and now he's back. So he's just kind of double dipping and enjoying being part of the program and doing a great job. And then we have Chaz Scales, who's a former Cougar athlete that's also a special education aide. A lot of people remember that name. He's been at Arkansas State playing football the last 4 years, but was a heck of a football player in Williamson County. We're lucky to have Chaz. He's a great young man. Varsity-wise, we have Brett Tavos, our offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, U.S. history. Michael Copley is defensive coordinator. He's also in charge of our weights and fitness. He's a PE. There's Alex Melton as defensive backs, and he also is in charge. He's a special ed teacher, and he's also in charge of our conditioning and strength program. Him and Michael hit that together. There's Wade Privet. We call him Dean Privet since he is the dean of ISS, but he's technically in the social studies department at Centennial. He does our defensive line. Then you've got Joe Rietfeld, who is in our math department at Centennial and is coaching our tight ends, doing a great job. Tom Schumann, most people know Tom Schumann, one of my lifelong friends. Well, lifelong over the last decade or so.
Sure.
But he is a lifelong friend, offensive line and assistant head coach. He's in the special ed department as well. Then we've got Paul Perucchi, who is a paraprofessional coaching wide receivers. And I believe I've got everybody covered. If I left anybody out, then I apologize. There's quite a few of them, including me. There's 13. So I'm very lucky to have such a good staff. I really am.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk about.
Oh, I did forget somebody. Rob Boffman. He's our head baseball coach, and he coaches our running backs too. He's also in PE. How could I forget Coach Boffman?
There you go.
I apologize.
Let's talk about some of those other people that support staff, maybe a manager or a trainer who helps you in those areas.
Yeah, we have 2 very good managers on our football team, Neil Robinson, a sophomore, and Kevin Hall, a senior, and they do a great job. They're just fine young men. Our trainer, Keely Burnham, has come in. This is her first year, and she's done a fantastic job through of course, Vanderbilt Bone and Joint.
Right.
And then we have a couple of assistant trainers that she has that do an excellent job of keeping us hydrated and being there day in and day out. It's just a thankless job. Those guys do a great job of it.
Right. Now, you've gone through an administrative change. You have a new principal there at Centennial.
Yes.
Since last year.
Dr. Lee Webb is a phenomenal leader. Of course, I knew her from my days at Ravenwood when she was an assistant principal, and whenever the turnover happened and she was announced, I guess she was probably announced sometime in February, maybe late January. I can't really remember.
Right.
But she's been with us officially since February 1st of last year, and she is just all business. I love it. She's straightforward, to the point, very, very, very intelligent, and just supports the living daylights out of all of our extracurriculars. So it's been a great experience, and she expects great things, so that's good. That's always good.
I think one of the first times we actually had an opportunity to meet her, she was the athletic director at Henry County High School back when we went back to play Henry County.
That is correct.
For their homecoming. What was that? We were at Ravenwood.
Was that 2003? I think we went there in 2003.
That's right. 2003.
If I'm not mistaken, we managed to forget the tea that night, and Coach Webb was the head coach over there at that time, and he was nice enough to throw us a tea every time we scored a touchdown. So I don't know if I'd have been that nice if I was in his shoes.
Oh, back, time flies. I know that,
doesn't it, though?
Coach, it sure does. Well, let's talk about Mount Juliet. Kind of give us a scouting report on what we can expect to see from them tonight.
You know, you'll see about 4 or 5 formations out of the wing tee. You'll see a lot of motions on not every play, but nearly every play. You'll see a lot of perimeter runs with their guys that are on the wings. And then you'll see a pretty bruising fullback. He's not tall. He's about 5'5", 5'6", but he's about 200 pounds. So the way he's built really makes him tough to take down because he's got that real low center of gravity, and you can just even see on film he's got tree trunks for thighs, you know. Mm-hmm. And those guys are tough. Once they get those knees really going, it's tough to get those dudes down. They have an inexperienced quarterback due to an injury to their starter who had a broken collarbone, but he's played the last 3 games, and in the last game he did very well. He didn't pass for quite 100 yards, but if you pass for 100 yards or even close to that in the wing tee offense, as you know,
sure,
that's being very effective. Mm-hmm. And so it's run after run after run, and then a good, well-timed, calculated pass. So up front, they get up to that line of scrimmage fast, and I mean they fire off the ball big time. So that's what they are offensively. You're not old school wing tee, but just wing tee, and they're trying to get that ball on the perimeter, and then they'll kill you up the middle with that fullback as well. You'll see the classic counters, the waggles, the boots, and things of that nature as well. So you got to be really disciplined playing this offense. You've got to read your keys. You've got to know that if motion goes this way, you might have to look here and look back. And if you're undisciplined now, they'll chop you up. There's no question. Offensively, or defensively for them rather, they have been both a 4-2. 4-2 means there's 4 linemen and 2 linebackers. I know you know this. And then they've also been a 3-3, which is the same thing, 3 down linemen and 3 linebackers. So they've gone back and forth. The last game, they were almost 100% 3-3. So we've practiced this week for both 3-3 and the 4-2 defense. They're good up front. Got a couple of big guys, play a lot of guys on the defensive line, which is really good to have fresh people up there fighting in the trenches. They're back in space, but they get off blocks very well in space. So just because they're moved back, say, a couple of yards more than what you would normally see doesn't mean they're easy to block. So we obviously have to sustain blocks in space and in the interior to be able to see if we can't get chunks of yardage against them.
Mm-hmm. Seems like if they're backed up off the line of scrimmage, they're more probably of a read type defense in which they're trying to read what the offensive line is doing and move and react according to that, more so than an attacking type of a defense. Now, have they had a coaching change?
They have, in a way. Roger Perry, the longtime coach at Portland, who went over to Mount Juliet several years ago, decided to get out of it. And he did this, I want to say June, maybe even July. It was probably June. And there wasn't even an interview process or anything like that. They just gave it to his son, who was very deserving of it, Trey Perry. So Trey is a longtime D coordinator there. So with that being said, they had an offensive coordinator leave. Coach Roger Perry decided to stick with it since they had an offensive coordinator leave. His son asked him to. And now Roger's doing the offense, and Trey, it looks like, is doing the defense. So not a whole lot has changed, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah,
they just kind of traded positions, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how have they done so far? I mean, do you know what their record is?
Yes, they are. Mount Juliet is also 3-2. They had 2 opening wins, followed by 2 losses. Their losses are to Station Camp, and yes, exactly. Their losses are to Station Camp and to Blackman.
Oh.
Okay. So we're talking about 2 teams that are pretty much, in a tier, of their own, if you ask me. I don't know if anybody in Williamson County could hang with either 2 of those teams, just to be perfectly honest. So they put it to Mount Juliet pretty good, which, kind of was expected, especially when Mount Juliet's really good starting quarterback went out with a broken collarbone in the first quarter of Station Camp. From there, you see on film, things, went downhill as far as the scoreboard is concerned. But Mount Juliet picked it up big time in the last game versus Wilson Central. So their wins, they've beaten Wilson Central most recently. They've beaten Antioch. And I'm struggling to remember who they beat. They beat Lebanon in the first game of the year. And they've lost to Blackman, and they've lost to Station Camp. So respectable losses, no question.
Well, Coach, sounds like you're going to be in for a battle tonight. So who has to play well for you tonight, or who has been playing well for you up to this point?
Right. Well, our offensive line has absolutely got to do a good job of continuing to get our running back Deion Sanders some holes to run through.
Okay.
Our fullbacks, B.J. Griffin and Andrew Phillips, have got to create the holes that we need to be created, and our tight ends got to do a great job of getting either to their down lineman or to their inside backer. I think the key to this one, no question though, all around, is our quarterback Owen Roth has got to do a great job of managing the game and being on point with his throws. So to that end, we can't throw it to the other team. We've got to take care of the football. Our two wide receivers, our most explosive players, Bailey Wisnowski and Emmanuel Hall, they're going to have some explosive plays tonight. It may not be that they get into the end zone. Hopefully it does. But we need some explosive plays to get us near the end zone so that we can run the ball in there. That's going to happen offensively. Ball security, a few explosive plays, cut down the penalties and negative plays. Okay, we do that thing, we might be able to keep the ball away from them enough. If we get a couple of explosive plays, then that's huge for us. Defensively, obviously, we've got to stop the run. We have to stop the run. We have to keep the ball caged inside, and then when they do run it up front, we can't give up 7, 8, 9, 10 yards a clip. If we're able to do all of those things, then we feel pretty good that we're going to have a chance to win. If we go out there and kick it around everywhere and drop it and whatnot, then it could be a long night. But special teams also, Jack, is going to be the big thing. Mount Juliet got 3 special team scores last week to win the game versus Wilson Central. Yeah, so we have absolutely got to do a great job with special teams, not just playing to have our special teams not lose the game for us, but our special teams need to play to help win the game tonight, and that's what we've been preaching all week.
It's kind of like Alabama did against Virginia Tech when they had 3 special team scores to beat them in that first game.
Exactly.
Your quarterback, Owen.
Yes.
What grade's he in?
He's a junior.
Junior? Did you play last year?
He did play last year. Yes and no. He's on the team, but he had an injury.
Okay.
Yeah, he had one of those collarbone injuries and a low back injury, actually, is what it was. His freshman year, he had a collarbone injury. So he's had some nicks and bruises.
Okay.
So he's just now getting to the point where he's getting, deserved game reps and things of that nature. So without the injuries, we feel like he could be way far ahead of where he is. But mentally, he gets it. He really does mentally get it. And we feel like he's getting better with every single game, and we expect him to continue to improve tonight.
Well, what kind of crowd are you expecting tonight? Do you think the Cougar Nation's going to come out there? Because I watched the video that was on the website there.
Did you like that?
I like that. I like that. That's a great little thing. You do that weekly?
We do that weekly, either Sunday or Monday night. And, one of the parents comes over and just brings their little camera and puts it on and connects it to the website, thecougarnation.com.
Right.
And we are expecting, we expect our group to come out.
Sure.
Our student section, they call themselves The Section, which I love. I think that's hilarious. I think that's a cool name. So we expect the section to be rowdy. We expect the parents to come out and support it. I mean, Mount Juliet's a program that has scrimmaged Centennial every year, even a couple of years before I got there in the spring.
Oh, okay.
And has pretty much smacked us around. So, this is not a scenario where we're unfamiliar completely with each other.
Right.
We're looking for a very good contest and, hopefully a big win for the Cougars.
Well, outside tonight's game, and I know as a coach you want to think one game at a time, but let's get back into District 11 AAA.
Okay.
There are a couple of surprises, I think, in the district when you kind of look at where we're at right now.
Okay.
With Ravenwood being undefeated and Franklin being undefeated, and talk about the overall and in the district. You got to put those 2 teams as probably the teams to beat in District 11 AAA?
Yeah, I put almost everybody up there with each other. I mean, right now Dixon County is struggling, and I get that. But everybody else in Summit, they're struggling. But, I think this is an any night kind of thing. I really do. I mean, but obviously Ravenwood, Franklin, Indy, Brentwood, I think they're all good football teams. And I think that when it comes right down to it, the records show what they show. I mean, right now, like you said, they're undefeated in the district. Franklin undefeated in the district. We're undefeated in the district. So I think right now you just go with the records and see what happens. But anything can happen on any given night. Each team, I think it comes down to matchups. Can a team handle speed and space better, or can they handle bruising run game, up the middle or things of that nature? I really do. I think it comes down to matchups. I don't think you're going to see any team in our district go undefeated in the district. That's just my little prediction. I hope like crazy the Cougars are.
Okay.
Undefeated in the district, that is. But, matchups are just very different with each team.
Now, how is your team speed this year? Because in the past, Centennial has had pretty good team speed.
Right.
So how you guys, give me a little insight here there.
Well, I'd say we have a couple of guys that can run.
Okay.
And they both play offense, okay?
Okay.
And defensively, that's our main deal right now. Our team speed defensively is not where we would like it to be. We have some young guys out there, sophomore and junior safety and a junior corner. Okay, so we feel good about where that's headed, obviously. But, people run what they run. And at the end of the day, they're the best we have, and I wouldn't trade them. Now, do we wish everybody could run a couple tenths of a second faster on a 40? Well, of course. But no, compared to where we've been in terms of team speed, we're probably not where we've been. Okay. However, we do have a couple of guys that are as fast as anybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how many seniors are you starting?
I don't know how many we're starting. I mean, we only have 14 on the whole team as it is anyway.
All right.
So we're probably starting senior-wise. I know 3 on the O-line, 1 at wide receiver. And that's it. So that's 4, okay? And on defense, we've got 1 on the defensive line, and then 2 at outside linebacker. So that's 3.
Okay.
And then 1 at corner. So that's 4. So we pretty much, it looks like we're starting 8 seniors, I guess, right off the top of my head. 4 on offense, 4 on defense.
Right. Are you mostly 2-platooning, or do you have some kids that are playing both sides?
We have a couple that go both sides, okay? B.J. Griffin and Dylan Phillips, a senior B.J. Griffin, outside linebacker and running back. And then we have Dylan Phillips as a sophomore, tight end and defensive lineman. Those are the guys that primarily go both ways. Everybody else is pretty much a one-way person. Now we have to practice them a little bit on the other side of the ball in case we get in a bind with injuries. But no, other than that, that's pretty much it.
Well, let's talk about the young guys.
Sure.
How's that JV and freshman team? How they been doing? Because I know you guys, the district-wise, moved your games to Monday night, where you piggyback them on Monday night. So kind of bring us up to date with how those teams are doing.
Sure, yeah, that's been awesome. I mean, it's typical JV and freshmen. There's nights where they go out there and boy, you just think they are really getting it. They're really improving. And then, of course, they'll have a night where you look out there and you think, wow, are we coaching these guys anything? But all in all, the big struggle when it comes to freshmen and JV is, especially at this age group, is you do see a lot of injuries that might hold a kid for a week or two. And when you hold a kid here or there on a game where you need them for maybe both freshman and JV, stuff can get pretty thin pretty quick. And so that's what we've dealt with, especially freshman injuries. As soon as we get a kid back, we'll get one knocked out kind of thing. And so, yeah, we've struggled with that this year. But I think those guys have some real potential, especially when healthy and able to go 100%. I think we have some real potential there. I think we've done the freshman JV now 3 or 4 nights, and I think we're 2-2. And so, it's not going bad at all. I love the freshman and JV on the same night. That is so good for the parents, for the coaches, I think even for the kids. They can worry about the rest of the week getting better and practicing. And that's been a great benefit for us.
How's your freshman numbers?
Yeah, freshman numbers are at 38, so not bad at all.
Yeah.
Not bad at all. Of course, in the history of me being a head coach, I've generally had about 50% recidivism, I mean, about 50% are going to show back up. I'm hoping to get about 70% at least show back up for this next year.
Okay. And your varsity numbers, sophomore through seniors?
Sophomore through seniors, we're at about 64.
Okay.
So obviously, I'd like to have 70, but once you get past 70, it ends up being sometimes a little bit, too many actually. And so, I think if we probably had 4 or 5 more people, that could probably help. But all in all, we're not dissatisfied with our numbers.
Right. I want to bring up new rule changes that's kind of taking place, and a lot of it deals with all the concussion things that we hear talk about.
Sure.
How does that affect you as a coach and how you practice about tackling or those type of things?
Well, it really hasn't. I mean, we've always preached get your head up. We've always preached proper head placement. We've always preached stay up and drive on your feet rather than dive at somebody's knee kind of thing. So to be honest with you, we haven't had to change the way we practice a bit. Now what we might do is we might check a little bit more often than what we did 10 years ago, air in the helmet, screws on the face masks. We might be very conscientious when we're walking around in water breaks and things of that nature, and ask kids to kind of shake their head and see how their helmets are fitting.
Right.
Because kids, they're, as we all know, they're fairly irresponsible when it comes to that kind of thing. And, a kid will go, if they were allowed to, they'd go all season without putting any air in their helmet or tightening their screws. I mean, so we're constantly on that about every other day, tightening screws and hitting helmets with air.
Right. So as far as the, and I don't know if it's got down to the high school like it has at the NFL, but making contact with a helpless player, like a receiver trying to catch a ball and coming in high or hitting high, that kind of thing. Have you had any penalties that way?
You know what? We haven't had any hit penalties like that, but we've had a couple of those. I call them ignoramus penalties, where the ball is 25 yards ahead of you and you go look for somebody to hit 25 yards behind the ball.
Yeah.
Those are the ones we really stress not to do, because you just don't need to do those.
Right.
Back in the day when we played, everything was on the table, as long as it was in front and, whatever. But that's just not the way, and all that does is get people injured. So you'll see us practicing if there's a breakaway here or there, you'll hear us yelling, no block, no block, no block.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's greatly reduced this year from where it's been in the past since I've been coaching. I will say that. Other than that, we don't take to the ground a whole lot in practice. I will say that. And in doing that, we're able to, I think, keep injuries maybe a little lesser. But I will say, sometimes you feel like as a coach, you're just always cringing about the next hit or the next injury or this, that, or the other, and that's tough.
What's more important, the first 5 minutes of the first quarter or the first 5 minutes of the third quarter, Coach?
Yeah. I'm going to say the first 5 minutes of the third quarter, just to be honest with you. I think you just recovery time. You got time to recover. I mean, I've been in games before where we run the opening kickoff back and then we lose. You do something like that in the third quarter, that could be a very, very, very damaging thing to the opponent.
Right.
In 3 of our games, we've managed to be able to take the opening drive in the third quarter all the way down the field, chewing up lots of minutes and score. And in all 3 of those games, once that's happened, we have felt very good about winning, and in fact we have. And so that's been huge for us.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you bring your kids in over the weekend?
We do not. Okay. We do not. We have our speed specialist, Coach Clyde Avant, will do a speed training and recovery on Sundays, totally voluntary. We're not even involved in that one iota. So the kids will come in. A lot of kids are coming in to do that Sunday afternoon especially. So they've had time to rest and recover, and then they go out and do a little running and some stretching and things of that nature. But all in all, no, I like the kids to have a weekend, go see college football, enjoy themselves, and then be ready to hit it again on Monday.
Mm-hmm. Has huddle cut down on the coach's time too?
It has tremendously, yes. Just the operation time, where you used to have to dub tapes and do this, that, and the other. Mm-hmm. Now you press a button and everybody that you want has film. It's amazing. It really is.
Mm-hmm. Is kickoff tonight at 7 o'clock?
Yes, it's a 7 o'clock kickoff tonight. Cougar Nation, hopefully Mount Juliet will close up their streets and travel on into Franklin, and hopefully we'll see a great crowd and a great game for the Cougars.
Is it homecoming?
It is not.
Okay. Have you already had homecoming?
No, we have that next week.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Coach, I know that Cougar Nation will be there.
That's right.
I do know that you do a great job of getting the kids ready. I know they'll be ready for tonight's game, and I'm just excited about what things are going on in Williamson County as a whole, and I hope we have a lot of success as we go forward. And thank you for being with us today, and best of luck tonight.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the Coach's Preview Show. Centennial High School, 7 o'clock. Mount Juliet Bears are coming to town. Be there. Thank you.
Projects are a great way for your child to apply what he has learned in school, but sometimes it's really hard for parents to know just how much to help with those projects. If we help too much, our child doesn't learn very much, and if we don't get involved at all, then our child doesn't get the help he needs or have the resources that he needs to finish the project. If you want to give your child just the right amount of support for those big school projects, try some of these ideas. First of all, make sure you understand the project. And if you don't, it's fine to call a teacher and ask her to explain the project to you. Remember also, focus on what your child is supposed to learn more than you focus on the grade he will get. Discuss the options for completing the project with your child, but let him make those final decisions about the project. Help him break the project into smaller tasks and then set a timeline for completing each one of those steps along the way. Check on his progress periodically by asking him questions about the project and offering suggestions when he's stuck. Your encouragement and support can help your child get the most out of any school project. Remember, stay connected. You're the vital link in your child's school success. I'm Joan Tidwell, and this is Parent Connection.